Wanted to take a couple minutes just to walk you through the new Highgarden CMA tool. More to show you the features of the tool and less about actually doing a CMA because I don't do them a lot. But anyway, you're going to want to go to cma.highgarden.com and log in. Once you log in, you'll come to this dashboard. It'll probably be empty, but you click on create a new CMA. You can name this whatever you want. You might want to use your actual address and client name there. But the first thing you should know is what you want to do is try and find an address that's in BLC. You don't have to scroll down here and fill in all this information by hand. So I'm going to do one. I'm going to do a layup here that I know won't be too difficult. It's a Deer Path home on Dry Creek. Takes a minute to find it. So we're going to do this. This was withdrawn on 5/30/2024. So you can see it pulls in all the information. We got all the images here from the BLC before it was withdrawn. It looks like a pretty basic Deer Path house. It's got all the information from the BLC. You just want to go through this and verify it. We know it doesn't have a basement. It looks like a 2-story, 4-bedroom, 3-bath. Once you see all that information, you can click Next Step. And this is where you actually find the comparables. And this automatically generates to a half a mile, I think, radius. It looks like a mile radius around the subject property. So we'll leave that where it is. I'm going to come down here because I know there's been a lot sold. This goes back 6 months. It's looking single family and closed properties only. You can change any of these if you want. I'm going to change the levels to 2 and the bedrooms to 4 just because I have a feeling there's a lot of properties. Looks like we do have a handful of properties maybe in Deer Path. I'm going to go back another 6 months, see if we can find some more. Okay, now it looks like we got a pretty good group of them in Deer Path, so I'm even going to filter this a little bit more. I'm going to click this square and come up here and draw a polygon around the Deer Path properties. You want to double click to close the polygon. There's a tip. Now let's get rid of this radius here, maybe. Delete. Now it's just going to search within that polygon and pull back in just those properties. So we have 9 properties, 2 stories, 4 bedrooms in Deer Path. I think that's a pretty good representation. On this step 4, it's going to show you a map where all these properties are at. And then over on the right, these are all the properties that you can select to include as your comparables. They are unselected by default. So if you just look at these real quick and hit Next Step, there's nothing's going to be in there. So you want to come back and you could select all of these if they all look like good comps. They kind of do, I guess. We could click Select All and you see how these blue things change. So now we're going to have all 9 of these included as our comps that we're going to compare to our subject. I'm going to clear all those. I'm just going to pick a handful of these for demonstration purposes. And that one. So once I've made my selections, and you can see they get highlighted over here on the map, we can go on to the next step. And this is where we actually make the adjustments. And this is where kind of the magic of the program is, I think, at least for a noob like me. So the first comparable, we can look at it. It's probably very similar quality. It does look a little cleaner, whatever. We go to adjustments and we can make a square footage adjustment. These are automatically calculated. It's basically a third of the price per square foot of the closed property. It seems to come very close on most of these. So I'll just go through each of these and make these adjustments. This one, I'm going to make an adjustment for finished basement square footage. It's got an extra bathroom. I'm going to put in something for the basement. It's got a fireplace, Click Save. Well, we just did that one. I'm not going to make any adjustments on this property because the square footage and everything is very similar. I might even come down here and move this property closer to the subject. And that'll matter when you actually produce your report. We'll finish making these adjustments. It's got less square footage. Come over here, another square footage adjustment. And final one, make that adjustment, fireplace adjustment. Oh, I won't make adjustments for these other two. And what that does is it gives you an adjusted price after you adjust based on your subject property. So we can come back here. Right now, we can see that this deer path, the estimate of all these comparables would equal to make this deer path listing around $370,000 is what we think it might be worth. So after we finish that, you can add a note per property, which that'll also be displayed in the final product. You can open a comparison view of the subject versus a specific comparable. You should just get in here and play around with it. You can go through all the pictures of every house. You can see all the recent information about the house, when it last closed, how much did it close for. It's all right there. So on to the next step, step 6. This is where we show you basically $368,000 is probably what this house is, a range what it might be worth. You can come down here and you can enter a suggested list price. Let's call it $370, or you could do a range, maybe $365 to $375, or maybe we go $355 to $385. And that's going to matter when you print out your report at the end, whether we're actually suggesting a solid, we go in at 370, or we go in and present it to our client and say, we think we should price this between 355 and 385. Let's talk about it. We also have an estimated seller's net proceeds. Typically, a lot of agents go in and show their seller, if they sell for X, here's what their bottom dollar is. And we give them 3 options. You can change these however you want, but I'll show you what next step takes these into consideration. What we're doing here is calculating the net proceeds on those 3 values. You can come in here and change your listing commission. Let's say you're only going to charge 2%. You can see how this will get updated right there in the net proceeds calculation. This is an important one, property taxes. Property taxes are prorated in Indiana, and you have to calculate based on a closing date. So let's say that if we list the house today, we're going to close in 60 days from now. Put in that date, and it automatically calculates the amount of property taxes that will be due at closing from the seller. This will be filled in automatically to $1,165 here shortly when Alec makes a quick change to the program. That is what's charged to a seller from Chicago Title. These are all editable. You can come in and change them however you want. You can even add more if you know what the mortgage payoff, let's call it $150,000. You can see that gets put in there and it reduces their net. The final step is where you actually can click, you can add a custom note for a client. I can show you where that will go. This is the custom note for the client. Your closing remarks, and I'll show you what that looks like in the published report. I'm just going to change this so you can see where, thank you. And then you come down here, you want to make sure you save the CMA first. Save it, and then click Publish CMA. And this takes about 60 to 90 seconds to publish. But what you're going to get when it's finished published is you're going to get a URL and a PDF. So the URL is useful so that you can copy and paste that URL, send it in an email to your client saying, here's your CMA, give me a call tonight and let's talk about it. And they'll actually see an an HTML or an online version of your CMA. You also have a button to download a PDF report of your CMA. Okay, so this finish publish, this view right here is going to open up the online version. It'll have your picture, your information. We are adding a way that you'll be able to add your custom logo if you have one. Hopefully it has the Highgarden on half of it. But it's got a summary of that particular property, what we know about it. It's got all the comparable properties with a map. This is pretty cool. You could go down to these comparables, and when you're sitting there and you're talking to your client and say, let's look at the kitchen, compare the kitchen and all these comparables compared to your kitchen. You know, what do you think? You know, what's your living room compared to, you know, all of these comparables? And then you could come back to, you know, the details or whatever you want. But it's very interactive for you and your clients to be sitting there, go through the pictures together. Then we show some numbers based on those comparables, the 7 sold properties that we used in our, you know, what's the average days on market for those 7 properties? Well, it's 51. This helps you set the expectation with your seller. You know, when we list it, it might take 30 or 60 more days or so just to get an offer or to get an offer accepted. We have a price per square foot chart, and see the 2 blue dots? You remember when we set a price range that we were going to suggest for our seller? That's why there's 2 dots on this graph instead of 1. That's the range. Price versus days on market. Another graph. Current market conditions. This is the broader market. And what we're looking at is the zip code, the property type, and the bedrooms plus 1. So in this case, we're looking at 46060, single family, 4 to 5 bedrooms. What's happened in the last 30 days? You have all those numbers. Right there's your suggested list price. Range. Remember where I said you can add a note? That's where this goes right here. Then we come down and we show the estimated seller net proceeds based on those 3 sales prices. So you can explain that to your client. And then the final thank you, which you can edit all of this text. So that's the online version. The PDF version looks like this. You got a cover page. I didn't change the client's name, so you might want to make sure you do that. But I could just go back to any step, and up in the left-hand corner, there's an area you can change the name, and the client name would be put in there. Table of contents. We have the subject property. We have a list of all the comparables with a map. We have a comparable properties at a glance, which basically gives the basic information of each comparable and how much you made adjustments to the price. Then we go through each comparable and we pull in 9 images. We show the valuation adjustments that you did to arrive at the valuation. And then we have that local market analysis and trends. So the comparable property statistics. We got a couple graphs. And we have the broader market statistics. And then what the estimated value range or what you're going to suggest they list their property at. We have the estimated seller net proceeds. So your sellers, you're going to be able to set the proper expectations. Now, obviously, these are just estimates. You should explain that to your seller, but it gives them an idea of what they might walk away with. And then the final thank you. So we're really excited about this. We just in the last few days, I know a lot of people have been using it, and we're getting a lot of very positive feedback. We've also had a couple little bugs that we had to fix. Alex has been doing great at getting those taken care of really quickly. But if you have any questions or feedback, please reach out. Hopefully we'll be doing some Zooms either tomorrow or Thursday maybe, where we can do another one of these together, or you guys can ask questions. You know, more the better. The one thing I will say, the one thing that we have, I've had 2 people this happen to. they have come to this step, and when they find they're expecting to find some properties that aren't showing up on this map. And both examples were what they were using in filters. So they thought they were looking up the same information on the BLC as what they were using here, and they weren't. So just be careful with these filters. I would start out, especially, I wouldn't be filling in a lot of these initially. I'd just be finding the comps in that half-mile radius and see how many come back. Then I would start with maybe looking at just ranches or just 2 stories or just 4 bedrooms. You know, try and limit it in steps, so you can get down to that magic number of, 3, 6, 8 comps, really good comps that are very similar to your subject. So excited to get this in all your hands, and please reach out with any questions. Remember, you get to this by going to cma.highgarden.com. And you'll want to use your Highgarden IMS username and password to get in. So if you don't know what that is, reach out to Jenny or I and we can get it for you. Thanks. Talk to you soon.